Now we're going to learn how to solve these equations that we made. So to solve here, I'm going to solve for x. I'm going to just use algebra. I'm going to multiply both sides by 9. So 9 times the sine of 21 equals x. And you have these calculators, and we want to test something first. We want to push mode. I'm going to make sure you're in degree mode, which it probably is to start with, but maybe somebody has changed it. So to solve this, I'm going to take 9 times sine 21. Hit enter. That would be 3.22. Pay attention to how it asks you to round. I'm rounding to 2 places here because there's no directions on that. Okay. To solve for cosine, I multiply both sides by 13. So the 13 cancels out. 13 times cosine 37, 10.38. And to find the tangent, same thing. Now these are nice, easy setup equations. So x equals 20 times the tangent of 50. So 20 times tan 50. 23.83. Now you need to push the buttons on your calculator there to make sure you get those numbers to work out. If they don't, come see your teacher. We'll make sure you're pushing the right buttons. Okay. All right. So let's do a different one. Let's do one where we don't necessarily know the side we want to find. So the x is in the wrong place. So if I have an angle here, let's call it 25, and I'm going to find I'm going to call this x and call this 10. So I look at this and I say, okay, that's opposite, that's adjacent, opposite, adjacent, tangent. So the tangent of 25 equals 10 over x. So if you notice, the x is different here. We can't just multiply by 10 to solve this. So the way I'm going to solve it is I'm going to multiply by x. So I have x times the tangent of 25 equals 10. And then I'll divide both sides by 25. Because this is just a number. So x equals 10 over the tangent of 25. Let's see what that comes out to be. 10 divided by tan 25. 21.44. Okay, so you might be looking for a shortcut. Here's the shortcut. When the x is in the denominator, to solve, you can just switch the x in the tangent 25. So when the x is in the denominator, essentially we divide instead of multiplying to find the answer. The other way you can do a problem like this, if you don't like that method, if I know this is 25, this has to be 65 because they add up to 90. So in this case, I could look tangent here, opposite over adjacent. And now my x is in the numerator. So I can just multiply by 10. But I'm using 65 this time. And I get the same answer. So if the x is not where you want it, you can find the other angle to help you solve it. Okay, so to solve, there's two ways we're going to solve. To solve, when we know the angle, we're going to push sine, cosine, or tangent, those buttons. We're going to push those buttons. Okay? That's when we know the angle. The other way that we can do this is when we don't know the angle. So I'm going to go back to the inside of my foldable here. We don't know the angle, so on any of these we don't have the angle. We want to find the angle. So if I know the sine of b is 8/10, and I don't have to reduce it, the way I find an angle to get rid of sine is something called inverse sine or arc sine. And you'll notice it's right above the sine. Some people call it second sine because you're pushing the second button. So if I take the inverse sine of both sides, sine cancels out. So the inverse sine, or second sine, of 8/10, and that's going to tell me the angle, 53.1. You only ever have to do that once, because if you know that angle is 53.1, you can take 90 minus 53.1 to get the other angle. Okay, let's do it on another one. So we set this one up. Let's find b here. So to get rid of cosine, we take the inverse cosine, or second cosine, and that will find the angle. Second cosine 12 divided by 20. Same ratio. If you notice, these triangles were similar, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16, 20. So we have the same ratio of sides. They're similar triangles, so we do get the same angle. So let's add to our foldable. Solve when we know an angle, we push sine, cosine, tangent. When we're finding an angle, you push the second button and sine, cosine, tangent. Every single problem is set up the same way. So I look at the problem, I see what I have, I write an equation, and I either solve it one way or solve it the other. Okay, so you're always going to be given an angle on a side or two sides, and then you'll be able to find all the other angles and sides. So those two videos ought to take care of all the calculating notes for trig. We'll go through and do some problems, and there's some word problems that go with it. We'll be practicing that this whole week.